Hello and welcome to part 4 of the University of Auckland's 6-part series on Nectar onboarding. These videos are intended to provide a hands-on guide to get you up and running quickly with a remote Windows virtual machine. When we left the end of video 3, we had finished creating our instance and we had added the required security groups in order to allow us to log in remotely. This video covers setting up disk space so that you have somewhere to hold your data. In this video there are two things that we will be covering. Firstly, there is the creation of a new volume from the pool of resources that you have been allocated, and the second part is how to go about attaching that volume that you have created to an instance so that it is accessible from Windows in that instance. As always, I'd like to just highlight that the details that we describe in this video are specific to the University of Auckland, and I would ask that you check with your local node before you follow these instructions if you are not accessing a Nectar node through the University of Auckland. Having said that, I'll just jump to the dashboard, so I'll see you shortly. So here we are in our Nectar dashboard. We have created the instance and we have created and attached security groups to that so that we can access it remotely. We now want to create a hard disk on that instance so that we have storage space that we can use to put our data that we're going to analyze. In order to do that, if we come to the Volumes tab on the left hand side, open that, and then click on Volumes. This will bring us to a new page where we'll be able to see the volumes that currently exist. If we want to create a new volume, we go to the Create Volume button. We click on that. That will again bring us to a form that we can fill in the details of our request for space for that instance. Okay, so here we are. So, as always, we need to give this volume a name, and we should ensure that it is something that is useful so we can remember what we are doing when we come to look at this at a later stage. So this is my video test volume. You might want to call it something like data, or if you have multiple sources of data that you want to keep separate, you may have one that is data set A and a second volume that is data set B. We can put in a description to give a little more detail about what's there. When it comes to volume source, this would allow us to restore a backup of data that we have previously taken a snapshot from. That is beyond the scope of these videos, so for the purposes of these videos that should be left as no source, as an empty volume. If you have data backups, when you click this you'll be able to choose an image or a volume backup and restore that. We then asked how big this drive should be. If we look on the right hand side, there's a volume limits set of information. The one on the bottom is not particularly useful. That simply says how many volumes you have. A volume has to be a minimum of 1 gigabyte in size, so the total number of volumes that you can create is equal to the total amount of storage you have. The bar at the top shows the current usage, and if you look, it's a bit hard to see because it's grey, but we have 300 gigabytes in total of which we have used 80. So that means we have 220 gigabytes left to split up however we choose. So I'm going to allocate a 20 gigabyte drive. Just check to make sure that it's being stored in the right availability zone. For Auckland, that should be Auckland, and if it's incorrect, you can click the drop down and select. Don't worry about groups. We then click create volume, and we wait while Nectar creates that space for us. So I'm just going to pause here while it generates the volume for us. Okay, now we can see the volume has been created and it is currently available. That means it hasn't been attached to an instance, so the space has been reserved but it's floating around. We now need to link this reserved space to the machine, the virtual machine that we have created. The way we do that is we return to the Compute tab and back down to Instances, and then in a very similar manner to the way which we attached a security group, we're going to go to that button on the right hand side and we're going to attach the volume. So we come to this button here, which is on the right hand side, click down to open up our options, and we look for attach volume. We click attach volume. That brings up another form where we can select the volume. So when we click this, we can see all of the volumes that are currently not associated with any instance. The one that I wish to select is my video test volume. So I click that, check to make sure that I've got the right one in the volume ID, and then I click attach volume. And if I look in the top right hand corner, I'm looking for a green indication to say that that volume has been successfully attached. Oh, sorry, it's a blue indication. So you can see now that that volume has been attached. This brings us to the end of this video. In the next video in the series, we'll be logging into Windows for the first time and we'll be creating new users. Until then, I'll see you later.